Relentless bombardment, power outages, and shortages have pushed nearly every hospital in the beleaguered northern Gaza Strip out of service, with evidence of repeated attacks on and in the vicinity of medical facilities, despite the presence of doctors, patients, and civilians inside, a CNN analysis has found. At least 20 out of 22 hospitals identified by CNN in northern Gaza were damaged or destroyed in the first 2 months of Israel's war against Hamas, from October 7th to December 7th, according to a review of 45 satellite images and around 400 videos from the ground, as well as interviews with doctors, eyewitnesses, and humanitarian organizations. 14 were directly hit, based on the evidence collected and verified by CNN and analyzed by experts. Israel launched its bombardment and ground invasion of the Gaza Strip after Hamas' October 7th terrorist attack, in which at least 1,200 people were killed and more than 240 others taken hostage. In the first 2 months of the war, at least 17,100 Palestinians were killed in Israeli attacks on the Strip, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. At the time of publishing, that number was more than 23,400. Israel says that Hamas operates inside and underneath hospitals and is using them for military operations, including as command centers, weapon stores, and to hide hostages. The Israelis have released footage they say is evidence of those Hamas operations. The videos do not offer definitive proof, and Hamas has denied the claims. CNN sent a list of the hospitals identified as damaged or destroyed to the Israel Defense Forces, IDF. In response, the IDF said it did not conduct any targeted attacks against hospitals in the Gaza Strip, adding that Hamas systematically misuses hospitals and medical facilities. Tracking how aerial bombardment has impacted hospitals in northern Gaza gives a sense of the scale and scope of devastation that the war has wrought on the enclave's health system and the knock-on impact to civilians who have relied on the facilities for shelter and care and are more in need of their services now than ever before. Imagery obtained by CNN showed that 2 hospitals were completely flattened. Attacks on and around the Strip's 3 pediatric hospitals forced them to cease services. The only hospitals offering dedicated cancer and psychiatric treatment also stopped operating after having been damaged. By the end of the period reviewed, only 4 hospitals were partially functioning, according to OCHA, the UN Humanitarian Agency. None had surgery capacity. The World Health Organization, WHO, said on December 21st that no hospitals were functioning in northern Gaza and injured patients who were unable to be moved were waiting to die. According to the WHO, as of January 10th, 6 hospitals in the north were partially functioning. To provide a window into how Gaza's hospitals became battlegrounds, CNN took an in-depth look at the deterioration of the Strip's biggest and second biggest medical facilities, Al-Shifa and Al-Quds, up until they ceased operations in November. Al-Shifa has since resumed some services. Israeli authorities say both hospitals have been used by Hamas for military purposes. The IDF published images of a tunnel shaft and military equipment it said its forces found inside the Al-Shifa complex and video of what appeared to be an armed man outside Al-Quds hospital. Hamas and hospital officials have denied that the militant group has operated from inside the facilities. Taken together, the 2 hospitals reflect the similarities CNN observed in reviewing evidence from the first 2 months of the war, that what should be protected facilities are being bombed, encircled and shot at by tanks, and that surrounding infrastructure, ambulances and roads are being hit, affecting efforts to treat patients, evacuate facilities, and deliver aid. Several of the hospitals assessed as part of this analysis, including Al-Shifa and Al-Quds, appear to have been attacked by Israel, according to imagery of munitions fragments, large impact craters, tanks, tank shell holes, and tracks from heavily armored vehicles. Experts who reviewed the imagery for CNN said that the aftermath was consistent with damage from high-grade military weaponry used by the IDF. An earlier CNN investigation determined that a failed Palestinian rocket fired from Gaza was likely the cause of a deadly blast at the Al-Ali Al-Arabi Hospital, also known as the Baptist Hospital, on October 17th. In other cases, it was not possible to determine responsibility for the attacks. The IDF has repeatedly said it does not target hospitals, but has admitted to returning fire at some facilities, including Al-Quds. In response to CNN's analysis, The IDF said that strikes against targets near hospitals undergo a thorough planning process to ensure the munitions chosen mitigate damage to civilians and civilian infrastructure, and that any strike expected to incidentally damage hospitals is approved by the highest echelons of command. Our forces on the ground know where these hospitals are, and nodes are taken into account when they're operating, a legal advisor to the IDF told CNN about the process. But at the end of the day, as long as Hamas continues to use these hospitals and facilities for the military operations, and our aim is to defeat Hamas militarily, there is absolutely no choice but to go there. Hospitals and other medical establishments are protected civilian objects under international humanitarian law. It is illegal, with few exceptions, to attack hospitals, ambulances, or other health facilities, or to otherwise prevent them from providing care. A hospital can lose its special protected status only if it is used by an armed group for acts that are harmful to the enemy. But even if a hospital loses its special status, the wounded and sick inside are still protected by the principle of proportionality. A warning must be given, and time for safe evacuation, before carrying out an attack. In many cases, it's impossible to evacuate everyone from a hospital, so there are still medical personnel and patients inside. Cordula Droge, the chief legal officer of the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, told CNN, "The onus is on the attacker to take all precautions to avoid that they come to harm." Israel has repeatedly called for the evacuation of 22 hospitals in northern Gaza. But doctors operating in the hospitals, as well as international organizations, have said the evacuation of injured patients and staff is incredibly dangerous, if not impossible, amid the fighting. Israel first ordered Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza City, which is run by the Palestine Red Crescent Society, PRCS, to be evacuated on October 14th, according to the Humanitarian organization. The group, which is affiliated with the ICRC, said that it couldn't evacuate the hospital's 500 patients, particularly those in the ICU and babies in incubators, nor could it move 12,000 displaced people, many of them women and children, who had sought refuge there.